I will be happy to go over this really quickly, what I shared last time, except for last time I started with a really scary moment in my journey, and today I will explain where I came from first. I loved my life. I loved my life. My husband Zoran, his name Zoran means early riser in my language, in Serbian. He was tall, handsome maybe, smart, former basketball coach, engineer running his own company. I played for the Division I basketball in Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia knows a thing or two about basketball, right? I was a lawyer, and we had two beautiful sons, Ivan and Boris. Weekends were our favorite. We played tennis and basketball with them as early as they could barely hold a racket or dribble a ball. Very often we would pack up the car and go to the Croatian coast. Now lately Americans heard about Dubrovnik, Croatian coast on the Adriatic Sea. We had a little summer house there a few minutes from Dubrovnik. And we loved our sons, we loved our life. 10 years after working for some other companies, I decided to open my own law practice. And then one day, I was all ready to go and take on the world, all dressed up with my navy suit and silk blouse and high heels and a red lipstick. And I went straight to the door and grabbed the doorknob. The whole building shook. It felt like an earthquake. And after the shaking of the windows and the walls, the explosion happened. A bomb. Well, my clients didn't pay me to get killed. If they paid me enough, maybe, but they didn't. And I stayed at home. And I've never gone to my office ever again. My husband's company was destroyed, equipment stolen that same day. My kids never stepped their foot in the kindergarten. Everything changed in one day. My sons and I spent 8 weeks at home without having an ability to go out, with barely some food, electricity, or water. My early riser, Zoran, left early, and we reunited with him several months later. We never heard from him or didn't know what happened to him. And then the ceasefire came. As fast as we could, we grabbed each other and ran through the door. At the door, I stopped and turned back to my bedroom to take something really important to me. My red lipstick. It's not just a makeup. It's a representation of my whole life, a beauty of life. It was a promise to myself, a fragile promise that I will always hold on to beauty, even if everything feels lost around me. We were roaming around the neighborhood, and 6 men, fully armed men, approached us. They promised they will take us out of Sarajevo to safety on top of the really high mountain at the village Pale. That was the only way out, because in war, roads are closed, or it's dangerous here and dangerous there. That was the only way, and we were on foot. We climbed at the back of the truck, really happy that we can get there and be safe. Halfway through, I noticed a change in the whole atmosphere in the back of the truck. The big guy next to me started coming really close to me, really close. The men across from me were not meeting my eyes. They were whispering something to each other. I didn't find anything in my head to respond to that threat, nothing. I dropped deeper into who I was and who I probably am today. And suddenly a voice rose. A voice. not from fear, from my essence. Thank you so much for saving our lives. 10 minutes later, I softly said, I will never forget about you. You will always be my heroes. And that kind of a strategy I was following for the next 13 hours. Each time I said something like this, offered grace, kindness, gratitude, their shoulders relaxed a little bit more. They didn't talk to me. I never moved my leg against this guy's leg. In basketball, we describe that move post up. I don't know if you follow basketball, but I posted up my leg and never moved it away. My basketball coach would have been so proud of me. Because if I did and say, what are you doing? The whole atmosphere will change. My body language and my leg stayed there, and I didn't show any fear. Finally, we arrived at the top of the mountain at the village palais. They all got out to say last goodbye, and I offered my thanks again. Thank you so much for saving us. You will always be my heroes. The big guy who was standing in front of me bowed a little bit as a result, as a symbol of everything that did not happen in that back of the truck. Another 13 hours drive to Belgrade, Serbia, was as dramatic. We don't have enough time. That's for the third part. Since I was asked to come here and tell a story what happened next after we were saved. My dad and my brother-in-law waited for us at the Belgrade. Belgrade is the capital of Serbia, at the bus station. And when they saw us, my dad collapsed on the ground, crying. And I said, why are you crying? He said, yesterday's bus never arrived because criminals killed everybody in the truck to take a little bit of money or family jewelry that people were taking with themselves to go into the new life. I think we stopped there, right?
Yeah.
Well, next 100 days I was in Serbia. Well, I took the girl out of the war, but war never left me. It's really weird to suddenly not hear the bombs, not be crawling in my kitchen, hiding from snipers. Snipers were killing people through the window. I never smoked, but women were smoking, or men, and smoking and standing in the window, just looking through the window in a completely dark house, and they would get killed. So we were crawling on the floor if we need to go from one place to another. No food, no electricity, no water. I don't remember any details. If you ask me about toilet or no, I don't remember anything. I remember not being hungry, that's for sure. So let's go to the next. In 100 days, we reunited in Budapest, capital of Hungary, and took the flight to Israel. Israel gave us citizenships, and that's why I went there. Lived there in an immigration center for 2 years. I learned Hebrew in intense Hebrew classes. I was fluent in Hebrew, not anymore. I don't have anybody to practice with. And I had a job in a diamond company called Caprice in northern part of Israel. And I was at work, and suddenly I see a man like 65 years old with a belly. I don't mean to, I just describe a person with a couple, young couple. Really, really tall guy. And they're tall people, but I can recognize by how he's moving that he's a basketball player. And a really tall woman, younger people, 22, 4 years old. And I approached them, I said, I know who you are. You, mister, you're their agent, and these people are here to buy a diamond. They're getting engaged. Yes, how did you know? You kind of look like it. So why are you approaching us? I said, well, I played basketball for Yugoslavia. What are you doing here? You can play basketball, pretty soon I have an agent and I'm going to try out all over the place. Last time I touched the basketball was 8 years prior. And at that time in Yugoslavia, the top shoes were Converse, Converse. And my country didn't have money. We didn't have money to buy shoes. We were getting shoes from the federation. And when we finished the European Championship, we returned the yucky, dirty shoes back so somebody else uses them. Have you heard anything like this before? And we were second in Europe. So it's not about expensive shoes, it's about the skills. My husband convinced me, go to the downtown, buy a pair of shoes. Guess what? I bought a Converse light blue because I live in Israel. And I started running 30 seconds. I'm out of breath, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Finally, I am in the middle, I'm in front of arena. My agent is waiting for me and I'm going to try out for the team. I'm sitting down and putting on my best shoes on earth, right? The team consists on the best Israeli players, the best Russian players, the best American players that finished college but couldn't go to the professional level in Europe or America. And the coach already said, Nada, this is your pair. We start with 2 against 2, passing ball to each other to warm up. I said, okay, well, let me just put my shoes. Hey, lady, change your shoes. We need to start. You will be late. I said, what are you talking about? These shoes are the best shoes on earth. They all started bending over, laughing that I don't know what's going on. And I was so desperate to make a living and find a job and get paid that I was running like crazy. After 8 years of not touching the ball or running, this lady that was assigned to be my pair pulled my jersey and said, hey, you're making us look bad here, slow down. And being desperate to find a job, you can have the worst shoes and out of shape. Anyway, after the practice, everybody went home. I'm sitting in the dark arena, and decision makers went into the corner of the room with the coach and my agent. Several minutes later, agent comes out and says, congratulations, you got the job, except for the coach says, you're a little rusty. I haven't ran for 8 years. Well, that's a little longer story. I wanted to, we had a good feeling in Israel because kids went to school. We signed them up to play tennis, basketball. They had food to eat. And then my husband couldn't find a job in his profession. Apparently his resume was too good to be true. And long story short, we moved to Silicon Valley. He found a good position here. Only 1 year later, my younger son, Ivan, was at that time 8. And my older son, Boris, was 9. And one morning, Ivan said, just 1 year after we moved to Israel, moved from Israel to Silicon Valley, that he didn't feel good. We took him to the pediatrician. That same day, he was moved to El Camino Hospital. From El Camino Hospital, they took him to Stanford Hospital. And within 7 days, he passed away. Within a year, my husband left, and Boris and I, now in a foreign country, I barely spoke English. I was a lawyer in Yugoslavia. I can't find a job without going back to school. It was, wow. I don't wish anybody anything like this, and I'm sure you know of someone, or unfortunately maybe you had something like this happening in your family. We are absolutely with no support of any kind in a foreign country. I didn't know how am I going to support my son. I remember when he was 10, we were sitting in the car in the garage coming home. He says, "Mom, you're smart, you can do this." And not to go into a different story, I realized no man in my life ever told me, "You're smart, you can do this," except for my son. And we did it. It was not a straight line. It went up and down, and in one point I was so down that the doctor said, "Your vitals are identical as vitals of a person who is dying." And she tried to give me some kind of medications. I'm not that type. And I went home and told a friend about what just happened. He said, "Why don't you go to this hot yoga place?" And I didn't speak very well English. I thought it's a cool place in town, hot yoga. And I went in. It was over 100 degrees outside. It was 105 in the room. And I'm thinking, oh, they don't have enough students. They don't have money for air conditioning. Within 2 weeks, I realized they actually deliberately heat up the room. What's up with this? By that time, I was already sold. For a year, I was paying money, and I couldn't do anything. I was the person sitting against the wall in the back, crying, and no teacher ever approached to say, "What's going on and how can we help you?" And I was overweight and desperate and just sitting there and crying. I couldn't do one thing in the class for 1 year. And I sat there, "Hey, remember I was a pro basketball player, but it didn't look and feel at that time." And I said, "I'm going to get better, and I'm going to open my own studio. And I'm going to treat everyone the way they're supposed to be treated. I'm going to ask everyone, how are you doing? How can I facilitate your because yoga is not what we used to see in movies for skinny young people, size 0. Yoga is a therapy. It's a prescription for any age, any situation you're in. It just heals just about anything. Because I heard so many testimonials besides mine. How did you find us? And people come for one reason and find so many other ways to heal other things. Well, I got better. It took me 4 years to be able to do the whole class, not exactly like Jane Fonda, at least standing up and doing postures the best way I can. I heard there is a studio in Sonoma that was for sale. We already got our divorce final, and exact amount of money I got from the divorce was to pay that studio. I didn't ask anything. As a lawyer, you would think I would go deep into the finances and student body and this. No, I just gave her a check, and I thought to myself, maybe it's a big ego, I don't know. I thought to myself, just being me, I'm going to make it work. And I owned that studio for 10 years. During those 10 years, I was practicing every single day, facilitating other people's process of healing. It was my family, it was my community, it was everything to me until I got exhausted from teaching 4 classes a day in a heated room and practicing. And I sold it to one of my students. He sold it 3.5 years later to the current owner. I still teach and practice yoga in that studio. This is still my family. This is still my group. My son, Boris, is 39 years old. He's not 5 anymore, like we were when we were leaving Sarajevo. He's 39. He has a wife and 3 kids. He played 18 professional seasons basketball in Europe. He grew to be 7'3" tall. His father was 6'7", and we are all tall, all from both of our families. He has a master's in economics and moved to Munich, Germany, to work for one of the American company, but global, have offices all over the world. And the closest office to me is Milpitas. So I'm waiting for him to maybe come closer so I can hang out with my grandkids more often. All I do is work. And I didn't tell you that because I was a lawyer, I got my license to sell real estate, and that was the closest and the quickest thing for me to do. I still get to get dressed up in high heels, believe or not. And that red lipstick is always there. I hope you will never have to escape a war. And I hope you will never have to go over a mountain, any kind of mountain, to your survival. Yet in life, we all have mountains to climb, right? And when you find yourself standing in the bottom of that mountain, your personal mountain, I want you to know, and it can look scary, right? Anything in life. I don't want to name all these things that can happen to all of us, and keeps happening to me. You know, it looks like war was not enough. Losing a child, the divorce, and all this, it just keeps going. But when you're looking up to that mountain, and it's scary, you might look for help. Help might come, might don't. I want you to remember that you are enough. Hold on to your values, your morals, and your silent strength. Hold on to your skills and your wisdom that was born from all the struggles and the scars in your life. It's right there. And keep an eye on that life where you're going. Where you're going, that life that you're meant to find, you are meant to create, and you're meant to live. Hold on to your humanity and hold on to hope. And when that climb becomes really hard, reach out to that red lipstick. Because this little piece of beauty, that little piece of beauty is a declaration that you're still here. You're still here, you're still standing, and you are shining. Because sometimes courage doesn't roar. It just puts on a red lipstick and keeps going. Thank you.